Welcome everyone to this training session on creating a developmentally appropriate classroom environment for infants aged 1 to 12 months. This training is designed specifically for child care providers who care for this very young age group. Infants develop at a rapid pace during their first year of life, and the environments we provide have a profound impact on their growth, learning, and well-being. In this session, we will explore how physical space, materials, and caregiving practices can work together to foster secure attachments, promote exploration, and support infants' emerging skills safely. Creating such an environment means understanding infant developmental milestones and individual differences, including sensory preferences and physical abilities. You will learn how to organize a classroom that balances stimulation and calm, encourages movement, and provides a sense of comfort and security. This training is grounded in best practices and aligned with recognized frameworks such as the Infant-Toddler Environmental Rating Scale, 3rd edition, which guides high-quality infant care. Throughout this session, you'll hear practical strategies and examples you can implement immediately in your classrooms. You'll also discover how small changes to your environment and routines can positively influence infants' social, emotional development, communication, motor skills, and cognitive growth. I encourage you to take notes and reflect on your own teaching setting as we proceed. This training session is made possible by the Kentucky Governor's Office of Early Childhood. By the end of this training, participants will be able to identify the key features of a developmentally appropriate classroom environment for infants aged 1 to 12 months, including considerations for safety, comfort, and sensory stimulation. 2. Describe how the physical layout and organization of materials can support infant exploration, autonomy, and developmental milestones. 3. Implement strategies to create a nurturing and responsive environment that encourages secure attachments and promotes social, emotional, and cognitive growth. 4. Apply best practices for managing noise, lighting, and sensory input to create a balanced, calm atmosphere conducive to infant learning and well-being. What are the principles of a developmentally appropriate infant environment? Developmentally appropriate practice, commonly referred to as DAP, is a foundational concept in early childhood education. It means providing experiences and environments that fit the age, individual needs, and cultural background of the children served. For infants, this means creating a space that matches their current developmental abilities while being flexible enough to accommodate each baby's unique pace. An appropriate environment for infants balances safety with opportunities for independent exploration. It offers comfort through soft textures, warmth, and care, while also inviting discovery with age-appropriate toys and materials. Flexibility is important. The environment should easily adapt to changing needs, such as quieter times for naps or increased activity periods. Another key principle is minimizing overstimulation. Infants can be easily overwhelmed by too much noise, bright colors, or clutter, which can cause distress or reduced engagement. By providing a calm, predictable setting, enriched with meaningful sensory experiences, we support infants' regulation and learning. Importantly, infants also need emotional warmth and security. The environment should encourage caregivers to interact closely with infants, providing loving touch, eye contact, and communication. In this way, the environment is both physical and relational. It supports the foundation for secure attachments. Safety first, creating a secure space for infants. Safety is without question the highest priority when designing an infant classroom environment. The space must be free of all hazards that might cause injury or illness, allowing infants the freedom to explore safely. Childproofing is essential. This includes covering electrical outlets, securing cords out of reach, removing small objects that present choking risks, and ensuring furniture is stable and has rounded edges. Toys and equipment must be regularly checked for cleanliness and condition. Broken objects, loose parts, or any toxic materials pose dangers and reduce the opportunity for safe play. Equally important is maintaining hygienic conditions, particularly since infants explore much of their world with their mouth. Safety extends to supervision strategies as well. The room should be arranged so caregivers can easily see and reach infants at all times, minimizing blind spots or crowded spaces. Safe sleep practices should also be adhered to, including the use of approved cribs and appropriate bedding. By creating a secure environment, caregivers can focus on engaging with infants, knowing the space itself supports risk-free exploration and growth. Supporting health and hygiene in the infant classroom. Maintaining health and hygiene is essential in an infant classroom to protect vulnerable immune systems. Establish clear protocols for hand washing, diapering, and sanitizing toys and surfaces regularly. Frequent cleaning reduces the spread of germs and illness, which is crucial in early care settings. Design the environment to support hygiene practices. A designated diapering area, accessible sinks with soap and paper towels, and storage for clean and soiled items. Ensure that caregivers have easy access to these supplies to maintain flow and reduce any cross-contamination. Monitor the classroom for any potential health hazards like mold, water spills, or broken equipment. Good ventilation and appropriate heating or cooling further contribute to a healthy environment. Safe food handling and storage areas are also important for infant feeding, whether breastfeeding support, formula preparation, or solid foods. All these elements together protect infants' health and create an environment conducive to comfort and growth. Flooring and surfaces. Since infants spend much of their waking hours on the floor, flooring choices are critical for safety, comfort, and hygiene. Soft, cleanable surfaces like thick vinyl mats or non-slip rugs provide necessary cushioning to protect infants as they learn to roll, sit up, and crawl. These surfaces reduce the risk of injury from falls or bumps and encourage infants to practice new motor skills confidently. However, the floor must also be hygienic. Frequently cleaned to prevent the spread of germs, since infants often put their hands and toys in their mouths. Avoid carpets that harbor dust and allergens, and prioritize materials that allow for thorough daily cleaning. The texture of floor coverings can introduce infants to new sensory experiences. Soft fabrics or textured mats support tactile development. However, care must be taken not to overwhelm infants with busy patterns or colors on the floor, which could cause visual stimulation. Creating distinct play zones with rugs or mats can help infants understand boundaries within the room, promoting spatial awareness. A clean, sensory-appropriate floor surface encourages exploration and movement, both vital for cognitive and physical development. Furniture and equipment. Furniture in an infant classroom must be carefully chosen to balance safety, accessibility, and support for development. Low shelves are ideal because they allow infants to see and reach toys independently as they begin to grasp, and explore objects. This fosters autonomy and decision-making. Seating options for caregivers, such as gliders or rocking chairs, facilitate comfortable feeding, soothing, and nurturing activities, which are essential to building secure attachments. Avoid equipment that restricts natural movement. Walkers, jumpers, and stationary swings limit an infant's ability to develop muscle strength and coordination in a natural progression. Furniture should be sturdy and well maintained, with smooth edges and no sharp corners to prevent injuries. Arranging furniture to create clear pathways supports physical mobility and allows caregivers to maintain close supervision. Storage solutions should also align with developmental goals by providing easy access and visual organization. Thoughtful furniture choices contribute to an environment that supports infants' growing independence and movement skills. Selection of toys and materials. Choosing the right toys and materials is fundamental in fostering infant development across multiple domains. Toys should be safe, non-toxic, and sized appropriately to avoid choking hazards. Multi-sensory materials like rattles, soft blocks, textured balls, and mirrors stimulate the senses, touch, sight, and sound, and they promote exploration. Open-ended toys are particularly valuable because they allow infants to use them in multiple ways, encouraging creativity and problem solving. Avoid overly electronic or prescriptive toys that limit discovery or passive consumption. Books with bright pictures and simple texts support early language and visual processing skills. Natural materials like wood and fabric introduce infants to different textures and weights, broadening sensory experiences. Rotate materials regularly to keep infants engaged and continuously challenged, respecting their rapidly developing abilities and interests. Organization and accessibility of materials. How materials are organized and presented greatly influences infants' engagement and learning. Open shelves placed at infant eye level encourage children to make choices and explore independently, supporting their emerging sense of autonomy and curiosity. To avoid overwhelming infants, limit the number of accessible toys at any time and rotate materials regularly. This keeps the environment fresh and interesting while focusing infants' attention. Group similar materials together and use clear containers with picture labels to enhance understanding and offer subtle literacy support. Organized materials promote focused exploration and reduce frustration that can occur when too many options are presented. For caregivers, accessible organization allows for more seamless provision of materials that support developmental goals. Teaching infants to select toys independently, even in simple ways, encourages decision-making and problem-solving skills central to their cognitive development. Routine and predictability in the infant environment. Infants benefit tremendously from routines and predictability, which support their sense of security and enable better regulation of their emotions and behaviors. The physical environment can help signal and support daily routines, making transitions smoother and less stressful. You can set up clearly defined spaces for common activities, feeding, diapering, napping, and play, that infants come to recognize and anticipate. Use visual cues, consistent placement of furniture, and familiar routines integrated into the environment. Routines help infants develop internal clocks and anticipate what comes next, which reduces anxiety and increases cooperation. Consistent arrangement of materials and spaces allows infants to develop awareness and control over their surroundings. Share routines clearly with all caregivers to ensure consistency and that infants receive predictable experiences regardless of who cares for them. Supporting sleep and rest in the infant environment. Adequate sleep is vital for infant growth and brain development. The classroom must provide an environment conducive to restful naps and quiet periods. Designate a quiet, low-light area free from distractions for sleeping infants with safe cribs that meet all safety standards. Control noise with soft sounds or white noise machines as appropriate. Maintain consistent nap routines to signal sleep time, but also allow infants to maintain a flexible schedule. Caregivers should monitor infants softly and respond to sleep needs promptly to ensure restorative rest. A peaceful sleep environment complements the developmentally appropriate classroom and promotes infant well-being. Encouraging positive guidance and comfort in the infant environment. The infant environment should support caregiver strategies for positive, gentle guidance in response to infants' emerging behaviors. You must include elements that facilitate comfort, soft seating, accessible soothing materials, and spaces for close physical contact. Caregivers should be trained to use redirection, simple language, and calm responses to guide infant behavior. The physical setting can reduce challenging behaviors by minimizing distractions and providing consistent routines. Positive guidance helps infants learn boundaries and feel safe, further supporting emotional regulation and their social development. Transitions, such as moving from play to rest or from one activity to another, can challenge infants' emotional self-regulation. Configure the environment with clear cues, such as changing lighting or moving to distinct spaces that signal transitions. Predictable, calm transitions reduce frustration and help infants adjust more easily. You can use familiar objects or caregiver presence consistently during transitions to provide continuity and reassurance. Caregivers' sensitive interactions during transitions further support emotional security. Promoting secure attachments through the infant environment. Secure attachments are foundational for infants' social emotional development and their overall well-being. The environment you create plays a critical role in fostering these attachments by supporting warm, consistent, and responsive caregiving. When infants feel safe and valued in their surroundings, they are more likely to form trusting relationships with caregivers. Design the infant environment to facilitate close, nurturing interactions, comfortable seating areas for cuddling and feeding, eye-level positioning for face-to-face engagement, and quiet spaces to soothe distressed infants. Visual accessibility is also important. Caregivers should be able to maintain constant, clear sight of each infant to respond promptly when needed. Use soft textures and warm colors to create a cozy atmosphere, helping infants feel emotionally secure. The presence of consistent caregivers in the environment strengthens predictability and trust. Incorporate family photos or familiar objects when possible to provide further comfort. Encourage caregivers to practice responsive communication, following the infant's cues, mirroring vocalizations, and responding sensitively to infant needs. This relational aspect of the environment fosters the sense of security infants need to explore their world confidently. Sensory considerations in the infant environment. Infants learn about the world primarily through their senses, so sensory considerations are paramount. Providing visual stimuli like contrasting colors or mobiles at infant eye levels helps develop their vision as it matures over the first few months. However, it's important to avoid overstimulation with too many bright colors or patterns. Auditory experiences such as soft music, caregiver singing, or gentle environmental sounds foster early listening skills and emotional calming. Providing tactile variety through soft blankets, textured toys, and different surfaces supports tactile development and fine motor skills. Kinesthetic input, movement and position changes, supports balance and coordination. The environment should facilitate safe movement, allowing infants to practice rolling, reaching, and eventually crawling. All sensory experiences must be balanced and individualized, as some infants are more sensitive than others and may require calm, soothing elements to prevent distress. Infants can quickly become overwhelmed by too much sensory input. This can lead to distress or withdrawal. A well-designed infant environment anticipates and minimizes potential overstimulation. Use soft colors and textures, controlled lighting, and manage noise levels to create calming surroundings. Have quiet areas available for retreat and soothing. Train caregivers to recognize signs of overstimulation, such as fussiness, yawning, or gaze aversion, and respond by relocating infants to calm spaces or using comforting techniques. Provide items like soft blankets or pacifiers, and engage in gentle rocking or singing as needed. Creating a predictable, comforting environment helps infants self-regulate and feel secure. Space design, balancing active and quiet areas in an infant environment. Designing the infant classroom space to include both active and quiet areas is essential to meet infants' varying needs for movement and rest. Active areas give infants room to practice gross motor skills like rolling, reaching, or crawling safely. These spaces need to be free of hazards with soft flooring and enough space for infants to move without feeling confined. At the same time, infants spend a significant portion of their day sleeping or engaging in calm, intimate interactions with caregivers. Quiet areas provide a refuge from stimulation and help infants self-regulate. These areas might be designated with rugs, cushions, or soft lighting, and are ideal for feeding, cuddling, or napping. Clearly defining these zones within your classroom helps infants associate different spaces with different activities, which supports routine and predictability. It also enables caregivers to better supervise and support individual infant needs, allowing them to redirect infants to a quiet space if overwhelmed or to an active play area when they are ready. When planning these spaces, keep pathways open for safety and easy supervision. Grouping furniture to define areas without creating barriers supports infants' growing mobility while maintaining a cohesive, welcoming classroom environment. Lighting and ambience in an infant environment. Lighting significantly influences infant comfort and developmental outcomes. Soft natural light is ideal because it mirrors conditions infants experience at home and supports healthy circadian rhythms, which regulate sleep and wakefulness. Bright, harsh overhead fluorescent lights can be jarring and even damaging to infants' developing eyes. Consider using dimmable lamps, indirect lighting or window coverings to soften the environment. Gentle lighting also creates a calm atmosphere conducive to naps and quiet times. Incorporate safe, natural elements such as plants or nature scenes to enhance ambience and provide visual interest. These elements can contribute positively to emotional well-being, reducing stress for infants and caregivers alike. Thoughtful lighting settings help infants feel secure, which supports engagement during wakeful periods and restfulness during sleep. Sounds and noise control in an infant environment. Noise control is a vital but often overlooked aspect of infant classroom environments. Infants are very sensitive to sound, and excessive or loud noise can cause distress, negatively impacting emotional regulation and their development. Caregivers should strive to maintain a calm, sound environment. Background sounds like soft music or white noise machines during nap time can mask disruptive noises, which can promote better sleep. Verbal communication from caregivers should be warm, clear, and gentle to encourage early language development and emotional bonding. Avoid sudden loud noises or harsh voices that may startle or frighten infants. Incorporate sound-absorbing materials such as rugs, curtains, and cushioned furniture to reduce echoes and overall noise levels. A quiet, calm environment allows infants to focus, explore, and rest, essential for healthy brain development. Using natural elements in the infant environment. Incorporating natural elements into infant environments benefits sensory development, emotional well-being, and cognitive growth. Elements such as safe plants, natural light, safe wooden toys, and natural fabrics can create a calming, inviting atmosphere. Natural light helps regulate circadian rhythms and promotes a sense of connection to the outdoors. Soft greenery indoors provides visual interest and reduces stress for both infants and caregivers. Wooden toys introduce varied textures and tactile experiences. Natural fabrics like cotton and wool offer soft, comforting touches without synthetic chemicals. Always ensure that plants are non-toxic and placed out of infants' reach. Natural elements align with the holistic approaches supporting overall infant development and should be thoughtfully integrated into infant environments. Encouraging exploration and curiosity in the infant environment. Infants are naturally curious and eager to explore their surroundings. Your classroom should encourage this curiosity by providing safe, accessible materials, and opportunities for discovery. Rotate toys regularly to maintain novelty and to challenge infants' growing skills. Offer materials that provide cause and effect, such as soft rattles or toys that make gentle sounds. Design the classroom space so infants can safely move toward new areas or toys. Avoid clutter or excessive toys that could overwhelm and distract. Caregivers should support exploration by observing interests, engaging in play, and offering gentle guidance without overly directing infant experiences. A classroom that fosters curiosity encourages lifelong love of learning from the very beginning. It is important to limit or avoid the excessive use of equipment like swings, bouncy seats, and exercisers in infant care environments. There are several developmental and safety concerns. These devices often keep infants in a stationary or confined position, which restricts their natural movement necessary for developing muscle strength, balance, and coordination. Extended time in such equipment can hinder motor milestone achievement such as rolling, sitting, crawling, and walking, potentially leading to delays in gross and fine motor skill development. For example, exercisers and jumpers may encourage toe walking and poor posture and insufficient hip development. Spending too much time in these containers can contribute to container baby syndrome, where reduced movement leads to conditions like flathead syndrome and torticollis. These conditions result from limited positional changes and lack of opportunity to strengthen neck and shoulder muscles through tummy time and free movement. Excessive use can cause overdevelopment of some muscles, such as the back muscles, which may interfere with an infant's ability to sit or bear weight on their arms properly. This imbalance can make transitions to sitting and crawling more difficult. Many experts, including the American Academy of Pediatrics, recommend using these items only briefly, less than 30 minutes a day, for safety and developmental reasons. They should never substitute for supervised floor play, tummy time, and movement exploration, which are essential for healthy brain and physical development. These devices may also provide excessive sensory stimulation, lights, sounds, textures, which can overwhelm sensitive infants and limit their cognitive development by constraining imagination and active exploration. Safety concerns include risks of falls when used improperly or when near hazardous areas, especially with exercisers. In summary, while swings, bouncy seats, and exercisers can be useful tools for short periods, they can allow caregivers brief hand-free moments. Their overuse limits critical movement opportunities and can negatively impact infants' physical, cognitive, and emotional development. Caregivers should prioritize tummy time, free movement on firm, safe surfaces, and direct interaction, using these devices sparingly and only under close supervision. This guidance aligns with best practices for creating developmentally appropriate environments that support infants' natural growth and prevent delays or physical issues related to over-reliance on containment devices. Tummy time is a critical practice in infant care that involves placing a baby on their stomach while they are awake and supervised. Its importance lies in multiple developmental benefits essential for healthy growth during the first year of life. Muscle development and motor milestones. Tummy time strengthens the neck, shoulder, back, and core muscles. These muscle groups are crucial as infants learn to lift and turn their heads, roll over, sit up, crawl, and eventually walk. It provides the foundational strength and coordination required for these gross motor milestones. Prevention of positional deformities. Since infants spend a lot of time lying on their backs to reduce the risk of sudden infant death syndrome, tummy time helps prevent positional issues like flathead syndrome or torticollis. The varied positioning relieves pressure on the back of the head and promotes balanced muscle development around the neck. Sensory and visual development. Being on their tummies encourages infants to lift and turn their heads to visually explore their environment. This promotes visual tracking skills, hand-eye coordination, and sensory exploration. Engaging with colorful toys or a caregiver's face during tummy time fosters cognitive and social development. Tummy time encourages active movement and exploration. Tummy time is often called the baby's first exercise, as it motivates active movement rather than passively lying on their back. This active engagement supports brain development through sensory motor integration. Supports emotional and social bonding. When caregivers get down on the floor for tummy time, it creates opportunities for bonding through face-to-face interaction, talking, singing, and playing, all of which enrich the infant's emotional development. There are guidelines for safe and effective tummy time. Always start tummy time soon after birth with short, frequent sessions of 2 to 5 minutes several times a day, gradually increasing to about 15 to 30 minutes daily by 2 months of age. Always supervise the baby closely during tummy time to ensure safety and comfort. Use a clean, firm surface such as a blanket on the floor, and consider placing toys or a caregiver space within eyesight to encourage engagement. If the infant fusses, caregivers can try different positions, like across their lap, or limit the sessions to shorter duration as the infant gradually increases tolerance. Tummy time is indispensable for developing the physical strength, motor skills, and sensory awareness that infants need to reach critical early milestones safely and confidently. Tummy time helps prevent physical issues associated with prolonged back lying, and it enriches cognitive and emotional growth through engaging sensory experiences and caregiver interaction. Encouraging motor development through the infant environment. The first year of life is a critical period for gross and fine motor skill acquisition. The infant classroom environment can be a powerful catalyst for encouraging these skills. Open floor space, soft mats, and age-appropriate toys enable infants to practice rolling, reaching, sitting, and eventually crawling and pulling up. Caregivers can provide materials that encourage movement, such as soft balls, tactile blocks, or lightweight toys placed just out of reach, which can motivate infants to stretch or scoot forward. Arrange classroom furniture to create safe obstacles for crawling or cruising practice. Safe exploration of varying textures and surfaces supports infant sensory and motor development. Caregivers have a role in encouraging movement, providing supervision and gentle encouragement, and modeling motor skills throughout play. Supporting language and communication development in the infant environment. Language development in infancy begins with rich, responsive communication between caregivers and infants. The classroom environment should support opportunities for these serve and return exchanges that lay the foundation for language acquisition. Always create spaces where caregivers and infants can engage face-to-face without distractions. This could be a cozy seating area for conversations, singing, or book reading. Keep items like picture books, puppets, and visual aids accessible to enrich verbal interactions. Label shelves and containers to familiarize infants with words and objects. Caregivers should be encouraged to narrate activities, describe objects, and respond warmly to infants' sounds and gestures. Reducing background noise and offering quiet areas allows infants to better hear and process spoken language. The infant environment should support consistent, intentional communication throughout all daily routines. Visual supports for emerging understanding in the infant environment. Visual supports are powerful tools that help infants begin to make sense of their daily experiences and environment before they have the language skills to express themselves verbally. Even at a very young age, babies are active learners who use their eyes to gather information about the world around them. By providing simple, clear visuals at their eye level, caregivers can support infants' cognitive development, emotional security, and emerging sense of routine and connection. Why visual supports matter for infants. These supports enhance predictability. Infants thrive on consistency and repetition. Familiar visuals such as photos or icons depicting daily routines like feeding, diapering, nap time, or playtime create predictable cues that help babies develop expectations about what is happening next. This visual predictability reduces anxiety and fussiness by offering clues that prepare infants for transitions. These supports build early cognitive connections. Although infants may not yet understand language or complex symbols, they respond to faces, colors, and simple images. Seeing a caregiver's photograph or the image of a familiar classroom object helps infants associate visual cues with specific people, places, or activities, laying the groundwork for symbolic understanding. Over time, these associations become critical cognitive stepping stones in language and memory development. These supports support emotional security. Visuals of caregivers or familiar classmates or family promote recognition and attachment. When infants see pictures of trusted adults who care for them, it reinforces their feelings of safety and belonging. This is especially helpful during times of separation anxiety or when a familiar caregiver is not available. These supports facilitate early engagement and interaction. Visual supports can become natural points of focus during interactions. For example, a caregiver might point to a picture of a bottle when it's feeding time, helping the infant to anticipate and engage with the event. These moments support serve and return communication and foster infants' attention and curiosity. These supports encourage self-regulation through routine. Visual cues simplify transitions and can help infants make connections between routines. For example, recognizing that a picture of a crib means nap time is coming. This supports the infant's ability to self-soothe and participate in the classroom rhythm. These supports support inclusion and communication. Visuals also serve as foundational tools for all infants, including those with developmental delays or nonverbal communication styles. The supports provide universal access to understanding the classroom environment and routines. Some practical tips for using visual supports are to use large, clear photographs or simple drawings with high contrast colors, which can attract infants' attention. Place visuals low on walls or shelving units so they are easily seen from an infant's perspective, whether they are lying down, sitting, or crawling. Rotate the visuals with the routine changes or seasonal shifts while keeping some consistency to build familiarity. Pair visuals with verbal cues and gestures to reinforce learning through multiple sensory channels. Caregivers can incorporate photos of actual children and caregivers from the classroom to personalize the environment and support recognition. You can use visuals during transitions or key moments. For example, holding up a diaper photo before a diaper change or pointing to a nap time picture to signal preparation. Avoid overcrowding walls with too many images to prevent overstimulation. Select a few meaningful visuals that serve clear purposes. Involve families by encouraging them to provide photos or familiar symbols from home, strengthening home-school connections. Thoughtfully implemented visual supports enrich infant environments by creating a visually accessible, predictable, and emotionally reassuring environment. These supports empower infants to start making sense of their day, feel connected, and engage meaningfully with caregivers and peers even before verbal language emerges. Fostering social interaction and peer relationships in the infant environment. Although infants primarily engage with caregivers, the environment can also support early peer interactions and the emergence of infant self-awareness. Around 6 to 12 months, infants begin to develop a basic sense of self. recognizing themselves as separate individuals distinct from others. This growing self-awareness is foundational for social development and understanding their place within a group. Providing safe, shared play spaces encourages infants to observe not only their peers, but also their own actions reflected back, such as in mirrors or through interactive play. These experiences help infants explore their own identity while also laying the groundwork for social skills such as turn-taking, empathy, and cooperative play. Caregivers can arrange seating and play areas so infants can see and reach peers easily, as well as access mirrors or caregivers' responsive faces. Providing materials that can be shared or passed along during play, like soft balls or stacking cups, encourages curiosity about others and supports the awareness of self in relation to peers. Caregivers can model social behavior, narrate social interactions, and facilitate gentle peer exchanges that highlight both individual preferences and shared experiences. These guided interactions help infants recognize emotions in themselves and others, which strengthens their emotional development and positive peer relationships. It's important to ensure the space is large enough to prevent overcrowding, which can lead to overstimulation or conflict. This would hinder positive social experiences and self-regulation. By supporting early self-awareness alongside social engagement, caregivers create an environment where infants begin to build their own identity and the social skills they will continue to develop throughout their childhood. Creative play with infants in the infant environment. Art in an infant room plays a valuable role in sensory exploration, creativity, and early cognitive development, but it must be planned carefully with safety and developmentally appropriateness in mind. There are some key points about incorporating art into an infant classroom environment. Use only non-toxic, infant-safe materials. Infants explore primarily through their senses, including tasting and mouthing objects. Art supplies must be non-toxic and labeled safe for infants or toddlers. Avoid any adult-grade or artist paints that may contain harmful substances. Materials like washable tempera paint designed for infants or homemade natural paints are ideal. You must supervise closely. Never leave infants unattended during art activities. Because infants are naturally curious and exploratory, they may try to eat or mishandle materials. Constant caregiver supervision is essential to ensure safe use and prevent choking or any exposure to irritants. Art activities should encourage sensory development using textures, colors, and movement. Finger painting with safe paints is a classic infant-appropriate activity that develops hand-eye coordination and tactile awareness. Other sensory-friendly activities include bubble wrap painting or water play with paintbrushes. You must set up appropriate environment. Conduct art in a well-ventilated area or outdoors when possible. Protect surfaces and infants' clothing with smocks and washable coverings. Choose spaces where messes can be contained and cleaned easily. Limit the quantity and use small amounts of materials. You can provide limited amounts of paint or glue at a time to reduce the risk of ingestion or mess. Store all materials in original containers, away from food or drink areas, and ensure children wash hands thoroughly after activities. Even with infants, caregivers can model safe use of materials and keep activities short and engaging. Keep color choices and paint intensity light and bright to encourage exploration rather than overwhelming infants with dark or overpowering hues. Do not use toxic materials. Also avoid art products with artificial food scents that might tempt infants to ingest dangerous substances. Make art part of a sensory-rich play. Art for infants is best seen as an open-ended sensory experience rather than expecting a formal creation of pictures. Allow infants to explore with hands, feet, and simple tools within safe, supervised limits. Art in the infant environment is about providing safe, sensory-rich, supervised opportunities for the youngest children to experience colors, textures, and movement while fostering early creativity and motor skills. Safety should always be prioritized. You have to select appropriate materials, have a clean and well-organized environment, and ensure that attentive caregiving is inclusion and cultural responsiveness in the infant environment. Caregivers need to ensure that displays, toys, and books reflect the diverse cultures, home languages, and family structures of all children in their care. This fosters a strong sense of identity and belonging that begins in infancy and celebrates every child's uniqueness. You can solicit input from families. Invite them to share traditions, photo albums, safe comfort items, or songs. This strengthens home-to-school connection and enriches daily experiences in the classroom. Science strongly supports the critical role of early experiences, particularly in the first year of life, for infant brain development. Neuroscientific research shows that the infant brain undergoes rapid growth with trillions of neural connections forming in response to experiences and interactions. Key scientific insights include the following: brain plasticity and neural connections. Infant brains are highly plastic, meaning they are especially adaptable and responsive to environmental input. Neural pathways are created and strengthened through repeated experiences, such as caregiver speech, sensory stimulation, and social interaction. For example, listening to caregiver language influences the development of white matter pathways critical for language acquisition and cognitive skills. Serve and return. Responsive back and forth interactions with caregivers provide essential stimulation that shapes brain circuits for communication, emotional regulation, and social engagement. These serve and return exchanges are akin to neural exercise, which strengthens connections and encourages healthy brain development. Sensitive periods for learning. The first 1,000 days, from conception to about age 3, represent a window of opportunity during which the brain rapidly forms the foundation for future learning behavior and health. Early sensory and social and emotional experiences lay the groundwork for higher cognitive functions. Social emotional brain development. Early connections support social emotional areas of the brain that facilitate attachment and regulation of emotions. Researchers emphasize that positive social emotional environments in infancy profoundly impact lifelong mental well-being and learning capacity. Role of experience in shaping the brain. Science confirms brain development is a dynamic interplay of genetics and environment. While genetic factors guide initial brain structures, environmental experiences, such as nurturing relationships, safe spaces to explore, and language-rich interaction, actively shape brain organization and function. Long-term consequences of early environment. Quality of early care environments, including responsive caregiving and enriched sensory experiences, can influence language skills, memory development, cognitive function, and emotional health through childhood and beyond. Scientific evidence underlies the importance of providing infants with safe, nurturing, language-rich, sensory-appropriate environments. that include responsive adult interactions. Such environments optimize brain plasticity, help build strong neural networks, and support social, emotional, and cognitive development essential for lifelong success. Outdoor learning environments for infants are an essential extension of developmentally appropriate learning spaces, supporting physical, cognitive, social, and emotional growth in natural and stimulating settings. When designing these spaces, careful attention to safety, sensory variety, accessibility, and caregiver engagement is necessary to create inviting, enriching outdoor experiences. Infants require constant, close adult supervision outdoors. They are especially interested in exploring with all their senses and are prone to putting things in their mouths. Safe surfacing, such as grass, rubber mats, or soft ground coverings, allow comfortable movement and soft landings for early crawlers and walkers. Play areas should be enclosed with secure fencing to prevent wandering and ensure security. Outdoor learning spaces should include multiple activity areas that promote exploration and meet varying developmental needs. These might include calming shaded spaces with seating and gentle music, or swings for relaxation and sensory breaks. Gross motor areas with safe climbing ramps, gentle slopes, low slides, bucket swings, tunnels, and wheeled toys to promote large muscle development and balance. Natural elements can be integrated into the landscaping. Hills, raised garden beds, shrubs, and trees that invite collaboration and connection to nature. Protection from the elements is vital. Outdoor environments should have shaded areas for sunny days, windbreaks, and drainage to avoid mud and standing water. The design must allow ample open space for infants to crawl, toddle, which promotes physical development and coordination. Outdoor environments can reflect the cultural values and backgrounds of the children and families served by including culturally relevant natural plants, images, or play themes, by involving families in the design and the use of outdoor spaces. Outdoor play equipment and materials should comply with established safety standards. Regular maintenance and safety checks are necessary to keep the space hazard-free and developmentally appropriate. A well-designed outdoor environment for infants complements the indoor learning space by offering diverse, safe, and sensory-rich opportunities for exploration, movement, social engagement, and connection with nature. These environments promote holistic development and provide caregivers with additional contexts to build secure attachments and foster learning through active play. Educating families about how the classroom environment promotes infant development is essential for fostering strong homeschool partnerships and helping families understand the intentional design behind quality infant care. Here are the key points and strategies you can use to communicate this effectively with families. Share with families that the classroom environment is carefully designed to support infants' safety, comfort, and developmental milestones, including motor skills, language, social emotional growth, and cognitive learning. Emphasize that every space, material, and routine is chosen to create a nurturing atmosphere where babies can explore and form secure attachments. Explain to families how the environment supports key developmental domains. Physical development is supported through safe, open areas and tummy time to strengthen muscles and coordination. Sensory-rich materials stimulate infants' senses without overstimulation. Social and emotional development is fostered through cozy, private spaces and areas encouraging peer interaction. Language and cognitive skills grow from responsive caregiver interactions encouraged by the room setup. Provide families with photos or videos of the classroom showing the different areas, such as active play zones, quiet nooks, and accessible shelves with age-appropriate toys. Use these to illustrate how the design encourages exploration, independent choice, and responsive care. Stress to families that a well-designed infant environment helps them feel safe and valued, which fosters trust and emotional security. Explain that the environment enables caregivers to engage in back and forth, serve and return interactions, which are critical for language and social development, as well as provide individualized attention and support routines that mirror home schedules. Invite families to share information about their child's preferences, home routines, and cultural background, and show how the classroom environment accommodates individual differences and diversity, promoting inclusion and belonging. Offer family newsletters, daily reports, or digital apps highlighting how recent classroom activities and the infant environment features have supported infant growth. Include tips families can use at home to complement what is happening in the classroom. Organize tours or family days where you explain the classroom setup, answer questions, and demonstrate how the environment promotes development. Hands-on experiences help families appreciate the thoughtful planning behind the infant environment. Use clear, relatable language focused on how the environment helps infants grow, learn, and feel happy and safe. Let families know that their involvement and understanding of the environment enrich their infant's experience and that you welcome their feedback and participation to continuously improve the learning space. By proactively educating families about the developmental benefits of the infant environment, you build trust, encourage collaboration, and empower families to support their child's growth both at home and in care. Creating and maintaining a developmentally appropriate infant environment is an ongoing process requiring reflection and adaptation. Caregivers can observe infant responses, reflect on what is working, and make any adjustments as needed. Use tools like the ITERS 3 for structured self-assessment of the environment and your interactions. Invite feedback from families and colleagues to deepen your understanding and improve your practices. Reflective practice fosters a responsive, evolving environment that keeps pace with the infant's changing needs. Today we explored the many components of creating a developmentally appropriate infant classroom environment. A safe, nurturing physical space supports infants' rapid growth. Intentional design of layout, materials, and sensory input, and your practices foster secure attachments, language development, and exploration. Balancing stimulation with calm, responding to individual needs, and involving families enrich the infant experience. When you apply these concepts, you provide infants with the best foundation for lifelong learning and well-being. Thank you for your engagement and participation in this training. Consider how you might implement some of today's strategies in your classroom and observe how infants respond. Remember, small adjustments can make a significant difference in supporting infant development. I always encourage you to continue learning, collaborating with colleagues, and using reflection tools to enhance your practice. You can create meaningful, nurturing environments that help every infant thrive.